Wisdom. It's yet another Tuesday, and it's so amazing to be here. Now, I need to apologize this once in advance this morning. So, if you are in and around the Western Cape, especially the Cape Town area, that's where I'm based, this is where this is live streamed from, then you'll notice that the weather outside is not looking great. And this was exactly this morning, right? This morning, everything was just slow. I needed to reboot everything. I think we're 2 or 3 minutes late. And apart from that, I want to just say that in the event that this live stream, because obviously this is live stream, this is wisdom, we live stream this every single week. I do have a backup recording. So if this buffers really hard because of maybe your signal this morning, or maybe my signal, my infrastructure, I want to say don't let this frustrate you. Don't let this become noise and things like that. Just completely stop the view, the live stream, this morning still, every single time the recording goes live on YouTube, we'll put it there. You'll see our studios, not yet mature studios, and you can see the uninterrupted version right there. It will also be live streamed on your favorite podcast channels. If you don't know what wisdom is, this is what wisdom is. It's right here. It's for the entrepreneur. If you love business, if you have a calling into leadership, into sales, even into the professional field of the workers field, I guess, this is where we talk about biblical wisdom and how to apply that in your life. We're at week 19, and it's so great having you this morning. So that was kind of like the T's and C's on the weather update. That's one of those things that it's act of God, act of nature. Can't really do anything about it on our end. I just want to apologize in advance, and I know myself, and that's why I said, listen, if this frustrates you, just completely stop the stream, or watching in live, because I think on TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, a couple of places. Just stop, come back to our YouTube channel later on this morning. It will be live there, uninterrupted for you to view. Other than that, if you want to follow this journey, please just like, share, tag a friend. That's how we spread the message, how we spread I won't say the word, but wisdoms of the word, into our workplaces, because we do feel that the entrepreneur's got a calling in their life, and we want to just steward into that and shepherd into that. At the end of the day, there's a couple of things that we're busy with. There's really, really cool things that my company XCAP, who's presenting this, is busy with, especially from AI. I think if you like AI and technology, it's worth a follow to check out what we're busy doing with, and we'll take it straight from there. So there's something fascinating about how we work. We as humans across every single industry, every team, every founder I've ever sat with, the same divide or division shows up at the end of the day. There are people who wait to feel ready. That's on the one side that we get. And then there are people who, do the work whether they feel ready or they actually do not feel ready. And we tend to admire the second kind, but we keep building our weeks like the first, right? So this morning, I want to talk about exactly that gap, the gap between motivation, and on the other side, we're sitting with something called discipline, right? There's kind of like a big gap with that, because most of the founders I know are highly motivated, and most of those same founders are actually deeply undisciplined. And that should bother us, because Solomon, 3,000 years before LinkedIn was a thing, he kind of already saw this thing coming, right? And it is not lost on me that we are saying this in May, right? 5 months into the year, because most of us have already broken at least one of the resolutions we made in January. Think about it. The diet, especially in the wintertime, I don't know about you guys, the diet is gone. The reading list, the morning routines, the prayer time. Most of us have already started something this year that we are no longer doing. And that is not a moral failure, but it is a pattern worth investigating. Why does motivation expire? This is an important question to ask. Why does the start always look bigger than the staying? Because motivation was never built to carry the year. It was built to start the year. And that is a different job. He didn't write a productivity book, Solomon, right? He didn't run a course on habit stacking. He wrote 31 chapters of Proverbs. Today we're talking about this motivation versus discipline. And what you find inside those proverbs is not motivational. It's actually architectural. Solomon doesn't tell you to feel like a wise person. He tells you to build like one. And that's where I want to spend the next kind of like 30 minutes for this morning. I want to focus on that architecture side, right? We've talked about habits in the past. We talked about the habit stacking. It's a great episode that you can look into. But let me read you something through Proverbs 6, verses 6 through 11. Go to the ant, you sluggard. Consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer, no ruler, yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest. How long will you lie there, you sluggard? When will you get up from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come on you like a thief, and scarcity like an armed man. I want you to notice something right in that piece. Solomon doesn't tell the sluggard to get more motivated. He doesn't tell the sluggard to find his why. He doesn't suggest the sluggard listen to a podcast about waking up early. And I know podcast wasn't invented back then, but still, he says, go and look at the ant. And what does the ant have? It doesn't have a commander. It doesn't have an overseer. There's no ruler over the ant. No external pressure just applying to that ant's life. No daily stand up, no accountability partner, nothing like that. And yet it stores in the summer. It gathers at harvest. The ant has internal structure where everyone else has superiors or actually supervisors. And that's not motivation. That is design. Solomon is making a quiet, uncomfortable point for us to keep in mind. The thing that keeps the ant working at the end is not what's making most of us work, right? Most of us are running on commanders, on overseers, deadlines, and emergencies. Even my own company, I've got something like a hierarchy, even it's not like the bossy type, but still there's that overseeing processes. The ant has none of those. And Solomon's telling us it outperforms all of us. Now look at one more cluster of verses. There's a couple of more verses that I want to bring into this to get to my conclusion of wisdom and motivation. The sluggard's appetite is never filled, but the desires of the diligent are fully satisfied. Proverbs 21 verse 5. The plans of the diligent lead to profit, and surely as haste leads to poverty. Proverbs 12 verse 24. Diligent hands will rule, but laziness ends in slave labor. Three completely different verses, same proverb, same author, but three completely different angles. And the same word at the center of every single one of them. Something that we did in episode 1 already. Diligent. Not motivated, not passionate, not to be completely inspired. Diligence. Diligent. That's a center word. In Hebrew, the word is, I'm not, Hebrew, but it's sharutz. It carries a sense of being sharp, cut, and kind of like decided. A person whose direction is set, not whose mood is high. That distinction is the whole sermon. But Solomon does not he doesn't stop there. Listen to one more passage that I feel that's really inspired by today's topic. And that's Proverbs 24, verses 30 to 34. I went past the field of the sluggard, past the vineyard of the man who lacks judgment. Thorns had come up everywhere. The ground was covered with weeds and the stone wall was in ruins. I applied my heart to what I observed and learned a lesson from what I saw. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come on you like a thief, and scarcity like an armed man. Solomon's really passionate about this. There's something worth noticing. Solomon does not see a single moment of laziness here. He sees a complete field. He sees a wall. He sees a beautiful vineyard, or not a beautiful vineyard, but a vineyard. And this is the picture of a man who this is not the picture of a man who didn't try. This is a picture of a man who stopped trying. The thorns didn't grow overnight. The wall didn't fall overnight. The weeds didn't take over, overnight. That's not what Solomon is painting the picture of. The undisciplined life looks fine for a completely long time. And then one morning, you walk past your own field and you realize something. You realize that this is the cost of running on motivation. You don't notice the slow erosion, you only notice the harvest that you didn't get. The Hebrew word for sluggard is atzal. It comes from a root meaning to lean, right? To recline, to pull back. The sluggard is not the man who refuses to work. That's not what Solomon is saying. The sluggard is the man who is leaning when he should be standing. He's half engaged. He's half present. I think we're all kind of like a sluggard in our own moments. He's half disciplined. And that is what Solomon is warning against. Half disciplined is not partial protection. Half disciplined is completely exposed, right? Just let that sink in for a moment there. So I want to take that, I want to get more practical because most founders confuse motivation with momentum. I've watched this play out in companies for years, and there's a specific pattern that I want to show you. And here's the pattern. You get to Monday morning, the founder of the company feels good. The coffee is excellent, the deck looks clean. He makes 3 sales calls, sends 2 follow-up emails, books a meeting with a possible investor. And by 11 a.m., he is convinced he's on the verge of something, on the top of the world. By 12:30 p.m., a hard no lands. The investor passes. The lead goes silent. A team member sends a slightly disappointing message. And that founder, right, is done with, completely done with. Not done with the day, technically, right? He's still at his desk, still right there, capable of doing anything, but the engine has stopped. The motivation has completely evaporated. By 4 p.m., he's opening LinkedIn instead of the CRM, just doom scrolling through there. And this is not a character flaw. This is exactly what happens when the system runs on feeling. Motivation is a beautiful spark. Motivation is also a terrible, terrible, terrible engine. And I want to say that again. Motivation is a beautiful spark. Motivation is a terrible engine. It will start your business. It starts businesses every single day. It will actually not run your business. Okay. So let me tell you the other side of things. Because we've looked at the motivated, founder on a Monday, let me show you what the disciplined founder looks like on a Friday. Looking at the disciplined founder here. It is 4:30 p.m. The week has been hard. A deal, fell through on Wednesday. Same things happens. A team member resigned on the Thursday, the day before. The cash runway just got shorter than it should be, right? That doomsday clock that's running. The disciplined founder is not having a great week, but there's a complete difference between the two. And the difference is this: he still does the Friday review the same way he did it last week, the same way he did it the week before, on the same day or the same way he will do it, for weeks to come, every single Friday. He's not feeling productive, he's being productive. This is the Tuesday test, not the Monday test, not the launch day test, not the test on the day you sign the deal. The Tuesday test, the day after the no, the day after the resignation, the day after the missed quarter. What you do that day is who you are. Motivation will not save you on a Tuesday, completely not. And talking about this example, I'm not saying the actual Tuesday, right? Discipline doesn't even need to. Discipline already showed up. So here are three contrasts I want you to take with you. Motivation needs a feeling, discipline needs a system. Motivation rewards the start, whereas discipline rewards the staying. Motivation is loud, where discipline is quiet. Motivation announces itself, right, in that loudness. Announces itself on stage. Motivation announces itself, oh my goodness, on LinkedIn. Said every single time there. Sorry, LinkedIn. And on a Monday morning, discipline finishes the job at 11 p.m. and never tells anyone. The world has the wrong heroes. We celebrate the loud versions of the work and we miss the people who actually do it. And there's something worth noticing. Solomon never once tells you to feel like working. Not once. In 31 chapters of Proverbs, the writer has every opportunity to deliver a motivational quote. Every single chance. And yet he doesn't take it. He writes about counsel. He writes about labor. He writes about, your plans. He writes about diligence, very hardly so. He writes about boundaries, about words, fools, friends. He writes about time. He does not write about motivation. And that's not an oversight. That's a worldview. Solomon is uninterested in your mood. He's deeply interested in your design, right? And I want to look at that design, the architecture of everything. Just allow me to have a sip of water here this morning. Okay, so if discipline is a building, what kind of like holds it up? I want to give you three load-bearing walls. All three appear in Proverbs. All three are recoverable in modern business language. The first wall is habit. A habit in the way Proverbs describes it is what you do without deciding, right? There's a lot of habit stacking books, great books out there. I'm not saying only to read Proverbs, brilliant books. It's a thing that runs while your conscious mind is busy elsewhere. Look at Proverbs 22, verse 6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. The word train means to narrow the path, to make one channel deeper than the others, right? That's what it's all about. A habit is a deep channel. Water flows down in it whether you're paying attention or not. In your business, that means three questions, right? What does my morning do without my permission? That's the first thing it asks. What does my week do without my permission? And what does my response to a hard no do without my active permission? You don't want to be that funnel or that bottleneck in the funnel. Whatever your honest answer is, that is your real strategy. Not the one in your business plan, the one in your habits. And let me give you a concrete example. I worked with a founder last year, smart, very, very smart, driven, must say, all the passion was there, all the drive, funded. And I asked him, what is the first thing you do when you sit down at your desk? And his answer would be the same as all of us, right? He said, check email. That's the answer. Then I asked this, I said, did you decide that? And I love the pause. He paused there for a moment. He had not decided that. He had drifted into that for 7 years. I mean, the first thing you do in the morning, open up the phone, check that email. Have you decided to do that? Or is it just, drifted to that? That habit was running his entire morning. And he had never once chosen it. His real strategy at 9 a.m. was reactivity. And that is not a flaw of will. That is a flaw of the design, of the architecture. Because once we changed the first 90 minutes, the company changed. Not because he got more motivated, because he stopped letting his morning vote on his entire business strategy. The second wall is counsel. We spoke about counsel a while ago, having that counsel. I'm going to re-mention it here in the motivation discipline. Proverbs 11 verse 14 says, where there is no guidance, a people falls, but in abundance of counselors, there is safety. The same in Proverbs 15 verse 22. Without counsel, plans fail, but with many advisors, they succeed. And I've watched many, many disciplined founders. I've never watched one who was disciplined on his own, on her own, alone. Discipline is not a solo sport. It needs witnesses, not because they keep you accountable, though they do, but because they keep you honest. A founder operating without counsel will eventually start drifting and not notice. Counsel is the friction that reveals drift. Three honest questions. Who actually has permission to tell me I'm wrong? That's an honest question to ask. When did I last let them to do that? Introspective. What did I do with what they said? Right, in action. If those three answers feel uncomfortable, that is the diagnosis. And one more thing about counsel. Solomon, who wrote about counselors, ruled with thousands of them. He had advisors in every single domain that he did. We talked about that in the counselors episode, or the councils, in trade, in defense, in architecture, in diplomacy, in worship. He had counselors. The wisest man in the world, the smartest man in the world, did not work alone. If he needed thousands of voices, how arrogant is the founder of a company that says he needs none? Counsel is not weakness. Said it before. Counsel is the architecture of wisdom. And the third wall is margin. Proverbs 22 verse 3. The prudent sees danger and hides himself, but the simple go on and suffer for it. The word for prudent in Hebrew carries a sense of seeing ahead, of carving out the room. Margin in the room you live in, time, money, attention, energy, before you need it. The undisciplined founder runs at 100% capacity all the time. Then a small surprise will hit and the whole system completely falls. Why? Why do you think that happens? Because there was no margin, zero margin. Discipline isn't about working harder, right? Although hard work is required, don't only go for the smart work. I wrote an article about that before. Discipline is about leaving room for life to be life. A practical version. The disciplined operator does not fill every hour of his calendar. He leaves the kind of like wide open spaces, not because he has nothing to do, but because he knows the unexpected is coming. I do that with my Mondays, by the way. It's a practical thing that I've done my whole life. A team member needs an hour. A client has a crisis. His own thinking needs space. If the calendar is at 100%, all of those become emergencies. If the calendar has margin, they become normal. And the same is true of money. The same is true of attention. The same is true of our energy, our focus. Margin is what turns surprise into the manageable. And reactivity, meaning just to be reactive on every single response, reactivity into the responses, habit, counsel, margin, that is the architecture. And if you want the mic drop moment as we bring this to a close, discipline is not about productivity. Discipline is about identity. Okay? I want to say that again. Discipline is not about productivity. Discipline is about identity. A productive person can produce in bursts, right? All those bursts are right there. A disciplined person produces because of who they are. And the shift from one to the other is a different kind of work on its own entirely. And there's a turn that I want you to notice as we bring this to a complete close, which is where Solomon turns, I won't say the knife, but Solomon turns the knife, because here's the thing about Solomon, right? He had wisdom. Solomon had all the wisdom. He had real wisdom, something that we all crave. He literally asked God for it and received it. And then he lost the use of it completely. By the end of his life, he was building shrines for foreign gods to please his wives. The wisest man in the world, with the deepest intellectual library that anyone can think of, right? Slowly drifting out of it. And where is he drifting to? He's drifting into his very own thing that Proverbs warned against. His own writing warned him against it. And notice something: you can understand discipline and still fail to live it. Information does not equal transformation. Knowing the principle is not the same as living the principle. Solomon is the most painful proof of exactly that scripture. Look at how Solomon's fall actually happened. It is in 1 Kings 11, if you want to make reference thereof. You don't wake up one morning and decide to abandon God. No, it's actually more terrifying than that. The text says he loved many foreign women. Sorry, gents, no foreign women here. And as he aged, his wives turned his heart after other gods. Notice the verb, turned. Slowly. The wisest man in the world did not crash his life. It wasn't a crash. He drifted it, right? One compromise, then another, then another. Then all of a sudden a shrine for one foreign god. Then a shrine for another. Then a kingdom, that after his death split completely into two. And this is what an undisciplined heart costs. It has a generational cost to it. And here's a warning that should land harder. Solomon did not lack knowledge. He had every proverb he had ever written. That's his thoughts, it's his mind, it's his wisdom. He had advised hundreds of leaders. He had received wisdom directly from the source. He had it all, every single moment. And the absence of structure in his actual daily life unmade every single thing of it, all of it. And there's no level of past wisdom that protects you from a present lack of architecture, right? There's no level of past wisdom that will protect you from a present lack of architecture. And that should make us slow down, because somewhere right now there is a founder reading every productivity book on the market, I do it myself, who has not built a single habit that survives a hard week. There's an executive who can quote Proverbs in a keynote and has not allowed a single voice of counsel into their actual life in 3 years. There's a leader who knows discipline matters really much and still operates entirely on motivation. And that's not a knowledge problem. That's a formation problem. The New Testament has a word for this, right? It's a Greek word, paideia. Sorry for all the Greek speaking out there if I mispronounce the word in your local tongue. And it's translated discipline, but its actual meaning is much broader than this typically. It means the formation of a child. Discipline is not behavior. It's not behavior modification. Discipline is formation. You don't do discipline. You become a disciplined person. And you become that disciplined person through repetition, through counsel, through the margin that we spoke of, through 1,000 small obediences that no one ever sees. Identity precedes habit. Habit precedes the outcome. If you try to skip the first step, this third step will never ever last. The building is exactly that. It's exactly the point. It's not the blueprint, right? It's not the blueprint at all. So guys, I want to say so thank you for showing up this morning with wisdom. Have a beautiful week. Over on our socials, we'll upload the full episode there. On our newsletter, please, that's the newsletter you want to follow. We get a lot of resources on this and how to apply this practically in your business. DM me and say, Dion, don't receive your newsletters. We want to get that out and going. And we'll give some complimentary sources out there as well. But have a beautiful week and see you next week, Tuesday, live here every single Tuesday. Cheers.